Hello. Goodbye. That was quick. Hello. Thanks for joining the room. I'm a little... Hello, how are you, Kat? I'm a little early. I'm going to start officially at... Well, actually, we're starting right now. I scheduled it for 6. However, I've got absolutely 0 on tap. So it's open for Q&A today for anything that anybody might want to ask if you follow my channel or the topics that I'm following. I'm just going to hang out with you guys for a while and see if anything comes up of interest. If not, we'll wrap up early. Otherwise, we'll go about an hour. See how it goes. Lori, thanks. Welcome, Willie. So, just let me know if you have any questions. You want to ask anything about the channel, about myself, my partner, Devil's Advocate stuff. Praying for California. Yeah, California's in bad shape. Bad shape right now. Seeing it all over the news. So, yeah, hopefully we get some questions. We get a little discussion tonight. I know that I've been asked several times if I can start making the lives be a regular thing. So I'm going to try for Wednesdays and Friday nights for now. We may move that day. My partner seems to be more available on Tuesdays, so it might end up being Tuesdays and Fridays instead of Wednesdays and Fridays. And of course, if there's anything special going on in the news related to the topics that we're covering, of course, I'll probably open up the live for a special thing. You're asking me, Lori, if I saw the TMZ special? Yeah, I did an hour and a half special on my thoughts and analysis. Actually, I did my thoughts and analysis of the TMZ special in about a half hour. I did post that. If you're interested, you may not be interested, but if you're interested, I did post that to our YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is linked in the bio. So I went on a straight rant for a half hour about the TMZ special. And then my partner, who didn't see the special, him and I took questions and answers and from the guests for about another hour. So about an hour and a half we did. And that's posted on... you could go to devilsadvocates.info, our website, and see a link to the YouTube recordings of my lives, or you can go to YouTube directly through the link here and see it there as well if you are interested in that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, of course, you can't ask questions and interact with it, but you can see what we talked about. And I don't mind covering it a little bit again. So, just kind of a reminder to check Linktree for the links in the bio. Free, others use it a lot. I'll have to check that out. I'm not sure about that yet, so I have to learn about that. Linktree, I suppose, is a link to other links, right? So I'll check that out. Well, the live was done. The live was on TikTok. I recorded the live from TikTok. I downloaded it and I uploaded it to YouTube. So it was a live that was recorded on TikTok. But I just happened to download it and then upload it to our YouTube channel for those who missed it. Because we have a few people who are in different time zones who wanted to see it. So yeah. Okay, yeah. So thanks for the tip about Linktree. I'll look into that. Appreciate that very much. And that'd probably be a good solution because for a while they meaning TikTok blocked one of my links. They didn't like my link, so Linktree might allow me to have that link there, and then people could go to that and see the links. I don't know how it works exactly. I'll take a look at it. Lady Capulet, a regular, thanks for coming in again. It's just going to be me tonight, not my partner. I'm just going to take questions and answers. I have nothing on tap. I have nothing special to cover. So other than, of course, you know, the news that I saw all over today about P. Diddy being upset that Luigi is getting more love than he is. That's pretty funny, but I didn't really do much. I think I did a video on that this morning. I might have done a short video on that this morning. Familiar with forensic architecture? They make 3D reconstructions of crime scenes. No, but that's so funny because I did 3D reconstructions of a crime scene back in 2012, and it took me forever using SketchUp from Google and stuff like that. So I will have to look into that. Or maybe if you, even better yet, if you could provide me a link, send me a private message with the link to remind me to look into that, I would love it. Because I'm a little fraggled after coming off of work for the day. I'm super tired. I was like really sketchy about whether I could even pull this off tonight, but so I thought, but I promised that I would start trying to make these a regular thing. So anybody that can send me information about cool tools or things that I can look into, I will try to work that in. Pretty soon I'm not going to be working for a living per se. I'm kind of retirement age, and I'm kind of like putting in my notice and all that good stuff like that, and I should finish up at the end of this month, and then I'll have more time to devote to play and doing what I want to do, which is investigative journalism more full time. So in the meantime, I'm trying to squeeze it into a busy work schedule, and my sleep schedule is horrendous. Forensicarchitecture.org. Yeah, I will try to remember that, and of course I could probably replay this as well. Why me? Welcome. I recognize your name. I recognize several names in here. So thank you all for supporting the channel, watching my videos. I kind of got discouraged the other day. I had a couple of... a new thing that's been happening to me lately on my account that's been discouraging is people are starting to pick up my videos and then call in other TikTokers who cover the same topics saying, hey, check this guy's thing out, and then they come and attack my videos for accuracy and stuff like that. And that's been discouraging because like I don't want to get into like 6th grade freaking popularity contest and all that stuff like that. So it's a little frustrating. I get a little discouraged. I did pull a couple of videos because I had a minor thanks for the likes, by the way, Nina, for getting us some attention. I appreciate that. But I did pull a couple of videos because I had what I consider to be a minor mistake in what I said, and then I was getting called out for not being honest, right? And it was just a simple mistake, I feel. But I pulled the videos because, again, with not everybody's going to read the comments to see that I've corrected my mistake in the comments. And rather than have a video continue to recirculate an incorrect statement, I went ahead and pulled those videos. So there it is. Stuff I got to deal with, learning new things. The issue is there's so many people making mistakes on the case right now. It's rampant. Right. And I'm trying to not be that way. I really believe in trying to be honest with the facts, right? So I do have theories, and I try to make it clear when I'm making a theory, and I'm just coming up with a theory. I had the most crazy movie theater theory, and I shouldn't say theory. I had next level movie, only in the movies and books theory about what if this is going on? And I'm like, there's no way in hell that's going on. There's no way in hell. But I ran it by my wife and my friend, and they were like, that's next level crazy. Like, it's plausible for a movie scenario, but there's no way in hell that's what's happening. And I'm like, I know, like, part of me wants to throw it out there, but then I'll discredit myself because people will be like, I can't believe you believe that. And I'm like, I'm not saying I believe it. It was just a thought that ran through my head. It was so nuts. Maybe I'll share it with you guys. I don't know, but it was a little nuts. Anyway, so welcome to Blessed Hope as well, and user 3732 and all these people. Jennifer, welcome. Thanks for the likes, helping us get some support. The more that you hit the like, the more likely more people are going to see it, and then I'm in trouble because I'm a one-man show tonight. Although I think probably plenty of TikTok content providers handle a much bigger room than by themselves just fine. So I guess I'll just have to learn to deal with it. All right, any questions or comments? Yeah, I agree. Diddy, ridiculousness of today was embarrassing clickbait propaganda. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have even believed it if I hadn't seen about 12 different news reports about that situation. And it does seem that Diddy has a bit of just a bit of an ego. So I wouldn't be surprised. And it's ironic to me that P. Diddy's all upset because apparently what he was really upset about is this guy, Luigi, is a murderer, and I didn't do anything of that level. And I'm like, really? Because the FBI invested P. Diddy for the murder of Tupac way back and had a money trail showing that he paid for the murder, but they couldn't close the deal because the money disappeared in between. Someone hijacked and stole the money from the hitman, and they couldn't close the deal. But the FBI was fully investigating P. Diddy for murder, several murders, I think at least 2. And it's funny because now he's doing the whole, well, this guy committed murder. Why am I not getting love? He's worse than me. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that that's true. Which is why I made a video about that today. Could we hear your theory about Luigi using a fake ID for a long time? So, I mean, the gist of the story is that for my theory, the one that I think is plausible or more plausible, is I do feel like Luigi probably is going to be involved for sure in some level. But I feel like there was more than one person. I feel like there was a group of conspirators that were working together. And Luigi's the chase for Luigi and the misdirections that were going on with the backpack and various things. I think it was almost intentional for if it was a group of conspirators, like I tend to believe it is, that they designed it so that Luigi would be the fall guy, kind of like Joe Caldwell said right there, that he would be designed to be the fall guy. Now, many people have asked me, why the hell would anybody make themselves the fall guy? He's going to jail for the rest of his life. Why would anybody sacrifice that? There's several different ways to think about that. One, it is possible Luigi is a man of principle, and he's doing it for the greater good. It's possible, and bear with me, it's possible Luigi did it to cover for the actual suspect, if you will, so that the suspect can continue to do that work again. So there's a lot of people who wonder, is this going to happen again while the trial's going on for Luigi? It doesn't get Luigi, by the way, a get out of jail free card if there was another event like that while he's in trial, because there's no way to prove that the same person did both of them. And plus, the jury won't even probably hear about the second event that happens. It'll be something that they'll be sequestered and not even know happened. But the point being is that many have asked, well, why would Luigi purposely set himself up? I don't think he was a fall guy in the sense that he had no idea, because again, several things that Luigi has said and done make me believe that he has to at least been an accomplice in it in some way. Now, whether he was the trigger man or not, whether he was designed to take the fall for it, I don't know. I'm still kind of working out as I watch. I formed the theory, right? I formed the idea, like, there's evidence to me. There's really strong evidence to me here that there are multiple accomplices. So now we have to try and figure out, if there are more accomplices, what would we see? And so I had to follow that thread. By the way, I'm getting a lot of people with blocked comments. I need to be able to read that. Yeah, I'm going to approve that. What about the ballistics? I have no reason why we can't talk about that. The ballistics is an interesting one. I did look up about the average time for ballistics to get to come back, and it's usually a matter of days to maybe a couple of weeks when one gun is involved. When there's multiple guns involved, it can take months. So it's been over a month now. So I would say the ballistics are done. Although someone did point out this is a different kind of gun than your typical gun, right? So this is a 3D printed gun. It's got a whole different ball of wax. So that does maybe add a little extra. 58 days, you said, on average for a single gun. What I did, the number I got was from ChatGPT. I asked, what is the average length of time in a forensics investigation? And they said a few days to a week is typical for a simple one gun in this scenario ballistics thing. But again, complexity goes up if you add multiple guns, or probably if you add a 3D printed gun. I'm not sure where the 58-day thing comes, so I'm going to look into that as well. I don't think it's all that super important whether the average. So in other words, what we're saying is a month of ballistics isn't outside the realm of possibility, although it's also possible they have already figured out the ballistics issue and we're just not being told, because that'll be part of the discovery process and the actual case, if they move forward with the case, which of course they will. But that's the only Jason Brooks' theory about player one, the pew or having personal motive possibly connected. That's funny. I did a video called my player one theory. I don't know who Jason Brooks, maybe I know who Jason Brooks is, the TikToker, but I had a player one video that I put out. So I was like, that sounds like my video, but you're saying Jason Brooks did one called Player One. So that's interesting. I'll have to take a look at what he said. To facilitate LM's family owned was interesting. Maybe their mother had insurance claim denials. That's been going around as a rumor. Like the very, very first manifesto we heard that was Luigi's said all this stuff about his mom being in pain and being denied claims and how he couldn't stand hearing his mother cry out in pain every night and he just became fed up. That was the first manifesto I had heard released about Luigi, and this whole story about his mother and health insurance claims being basically rigged in such a way that they asked for a bunch more money and blah, blah, blah. But then it turns out that almost every reputable news source has said that wasn't a legitimate manifesto. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, and they have repeatedly said that Luigi is not a customer of United Healthcare, and probably have said his mother wasn't as well. So I think that early manifesto was has been debunked, or at least has been told to the public that it's not the real manifesto. And the family, exactly. Chairwoman made a point. The family is loaded, so rigging it so that she has to pay more on a deductible, that wouldn't have affected that family. So I'm not buying. I mean, they wouldn't even necessarily really need to have insurance because they're loaded. Well, I mean, I think the TMZ special indicated, maybe it was that or it was the one before that on. What was the other one that was done? New York Post, about how the family had like a $4 million trust fund and a house worth $2.5 million. So I don't know if you call that loaded, but yeah, I think they've got a lot of money. They've owned a lot of businesses, the family. And I agree that the manifesto's language does not seem consistent with the education level of Luigi Mangione. Correct. I agree with that 100%. The weird part about that, though, is in court, in the federal arraignment, when Luigi was being told what evidence they had obtained from him when they made the arrest, they listed the weapon, the letter, and a bunch of stuff, and also mentioned the money. And Luigi only said, that money wasn't mine, that was planted, which I thought, what was more interesting about that is he didn't say the whole thing was planted. He just said the money was planted, which I found really shocking for me to have. It was shocking for me that he would even speak, that his lawyer wouldn't speak for him. But even more shocking that he said, hey, the money part's planted. Like, that meant the rest of it wasn't planted? It's interesting. Yeah, so unfortunately, by the way, it's hard to keep up with all those comments. A lot of comments and questions coming in while I'm talking and trying to explain my concept as well, or my thoughts as well. So I may have missed a few things. It is a little tricky. Yeah, right. Like I mean, to be fair, that's the common refrain for everybody. Evidence is planted. Now, having said that, I've been a long time student of cases in the news, and I have seen cops plant evidence and get caught and go to court for planting evidence many, many times. Officers often have the mentality of, we know who did this, and this piece of evidence isn't in the right place to convict, therefore I'm going to help it along and make sure that it's in the right place because I'm not letting somebody guilty of this crime get away with it. And so there are plenty of people in law enforcement who feel it is justified in doing the right thing to help the evidence along so that somebody doesn't get off on a technicality. So it depends on where you lie in the whole legal system / law enforcement idea, whether or not you feel it is justified for law enforcement to kind of make sure the evidence matches so that somebody doesn't get off on a technicality. Yeah, the idea that Monica has about if the cops are secretly looking for another suspect behind the scenes is not an impossibility. As I pointed out in some of my lives before this, it is not uncommon for the police to purposely give misinformation to the media to put out on national TV, especially if they're still looking for accomplices or a different person, because they want the person who's on the run and presumably watching the news to see what the law enforcement knows and what they don't know. They want the suspect to think that the heat is off, that they've got their man, that they know who it is, and that there's no question whatsoever, so that the person who they are secretly looking for will lower their guard and be easier to catch. So that is not uncommon nor illegal for the police law enforcement to purposely feed misinformation to the media in hopes that the suspect they're really looking for lowers their guard. Parallel construction to aid civil asset forfeiture. I'm not sure about that. I don't know what you're saying there. I have to look into that. I don't know about any asset forfeiture in this case, so I have to think about that a minute to see if I can follow your train of thought. By the way, thanks again for all the likes in the short amount of time. In 11 minutes, we've got 1.8K likes, so that helps us out a lot. 33 concurrent viewers is awesome. We had less than that the other night when I did a full TMZ review with my partner on the show. So night to night, I never know what we're going to get. I still think the real Pure had military experience and or history of making firearms. Possibly. I do know, here's my thoughts on that, Nina. I think the manner in which the shooter conducted himself, or herself, because some people think it was a woman, the manner in which they conducted themselves was extremely calm under pressure, right? That's a highly, that would be a highly charged event for anybody, right? Gun jams, the jams are cleared quickly and professionally. The person seems to not hesitate whatsoever, continues to stalk forward and continue shooting, appears to get very close and make sure, in my opinion, now that's my opinion, gets close enough to make sure that the deed was done, and then walks away and jogs across the street. There was so much calm, cool, and collectedness in that event that it makes you think of a professional, or someone who's just got a really, really good handle on their emotions, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people might plan something like that out, and then the reality of doing something shocks someone, and they make mistakes. So, and there's the character analysis thing. A pro would wear gloves, right? But you have to ask the question: was the no gloves part of a setup because it was a professional hit? There's a scenario in which I can see that the insurance agency itself hired a professional hit on Brian Thompson, and that they then set it up to rig a fall guy. And so by doing that, you could go to lengths of making it look like the real guy made all these mistakes, which then points to Luigi and gets Luigi arrested, while the real guy who's been hired for the event slips away. And again, the key to that whole thing is Central Park, and the fact that the cameras lost the suspect for quite some time, according to 2020, in Central Park, and picked him up again leaving. But who's to say that there wasn't a switcheroo of the suspects, and that the actual professional, if you will, in this scenario that we're theorizing about, slipped out in plain clothes, while somebody that was dressed like the suspect slips out and draws the attention and heat away from the actual person who did the deed. I can see that as a very plausible and not so movie theater scenario. Why Luigi was in New York City is a really good question. Law enforcement has given us hints about things. Of course, the law enforcement's theory is that he came there to do what he was doing, and so he was there stalking the hotel beforehand, and he was laying out his plan, and he was and all those things. Of course, that's the official answer. So then the defense has to come up with if you can prove that Luigi was in town, if you can prove that was Luigi, that's still an if. If you can prove that was Luigi, who was picked up in Pennsylvania, Altoona, if you can prove he was in New York under that false ID and it wasn't somebody else, then why was he there? But that's the thing with false IDs, right? So it's not like Luigi checked in as Luigi. According to the story, Luigi checked in as Mark Rosario. So anybody with a face mask who looks relatively close and uses a false ID of Mark Rosario could have been the person that checked into the hotel. They had to prove it was Luigi that checked into the hotel. Just because Luigi was found with that ID on him later on does not necessarily mean that there's not co-conspirators and the person who was in the hostel was not the same person as Luigi. Again, that's if there are people working together and they purposely made it so that Luigi would get picked up for it while the actual pew-pewer, I hate that word, but gets away. Phone call is probably almost certainly going to be traceable. Who he's on the phone with is going to be, to me, that's another indicator there's accomplices. Who else would you call if not an accomplice? Either, my theory is, either that call is to somebody inside or it came from somebody inside the hotel where Brian Thompson was saying to say, okay, he's on the way out or whatever, or he's going to be out in 10 minutes, he's just getting a coffee, whatever the case may be. It's either somebody inside the hotel communicating with him about where Brian Thompson's going to be, or maybe there's a person that's going to make an exchange with him in Central Park, drop off the backpack with Monopoly money, slip out the backside, wants to confirm that his getaway is prepped and ready and on standby because it's about to go down. But that phone call leads to the very, very suspicious idea that there is an accomplice somewhere. Yeah, I would say my money is on the accomplice came from inside the hotel. And you'd say, somebody says, well, it would take a very skilled level of knowing exactly, stalking to know exactly when he would come out. Unless, Scarlett, there's somebody inside the hotel that's calling him and saying he's on his way out. So again, the idea that there could be an accomplice. Yeah, and the lookout theory thing is, again, I came up with that thought process when ABC News was talking about how New York is full of cameras everywhere. But oddly enough, the one place where New York is missing cameras is Central Park. The Central Park, they called it, is one big blind spot in New York. So this person knew exactly where to go to drive himself on an e-bike into the one big blind spot of Central Park. And then they said officials lost him for quite some time. And later on, pick up the individual leaving the park on a bike on 77th. Now you have to ask yourself, what happened during the time you lost him for quite some time? And how do we know that somebody else didn't slip out the other side? How do we know the person who slipped out the other side is even the same person? We all assume it because he's on an e-bike and he's wearing similar clothes. And if you ask a lot of people, it's similar, not the same. Backpack looks slightly different. Coat looks slightly different. There are inconsistencies. Well, wait a minute. And then people would say, oh, well, people wear more than one coat. Maybe he went into the park and took a coat off and he had another coat underneath. And then I ask myself, why? Why would you do that? What's the point of that? It's not like you have a really clever disguise if you take off a dark coat to put on another dark coat. Like, wouldn't you have a much better disguise? So none of that makes sense to me. Other than what makes more sense to me is an individual goes in looking a certain way, somebody who looks very similar to that way, slips out the other side and draws the heat off. Because a guy on an e-bike in a dark jacket with a backpack is going to be all hands on deck. I heard it's going to be very hard with the defense. I'm not sure what you mean by that exactly, but a witness said he waited there all night, but law enforcement said he left the hostel in the morning. So about that witness thing, I've talked about this a lot, and I'll give you my theories. Some say two individuals. I have only seen one man who said that the shooter was out there all night long. And I'm not trying to dismiss it. It's a massive piece of the story that must be explained. That person will be deposed for his official testimony, in which case a lot of people change their mind. Oh, well, maybe it wasn't all night. I saw him there, or at least someone that looked like. Suddenly they change their point when they're like, okay, you're on oath now. You are under oath. Did this happen and you need it under oath, and will you go and testify in court on that? So you don't know that man's going to stick to that story. And as far as I know, it's one man. But yes, if that man can say with certainty that he had his eyes on the guy the entire night and it's the same guy, because again, in an multiple accomplice theory, you can't still prove it was Luigi if that's the official state. Luigi is the one who's standing there all night long because, as you pointed out, Luigi supposedly checked out of the hotel in the morning. He can't both be on the street corner all night long and checking out from the hotel an hour or so before the event. So now you've got accomplices again. And that guy's testimony is going to be crucial. But it's one guy. And that's if he stands by his statement. And I'm so sorry if I'm missing people's comments. It's really hard to get on a rant and keep up with the texting. I want to know about that random bystander too. If you're talking about the person that's on the video kind of drinking a coffee as the suspect's doing the event and they just kind of calmly like slip away and walk off, I want to know who that is too. We don't ever hear about that. Can you let people up in the box? What's that mean? You mean jump on the live? Yes, they found the woman. Oh, was it a woman that was on drinking the coffee in that video? Gotcha. So what did the woman say? And has it been reported in mainstream media? Do you have any kind of source of that so I can find that? Because I haven't gone to look for it, but I am super curious. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I mean, everybody on that street corner at that time is going to be asked to run down to see what they saw. Look down left on your screen. Oh, you mean you've got a request for taking the mic? Sure, let's give it a shot.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for letting me up. I'm sorry, what is
Yeah,
your first name?
Lee.
Hi, Lee. How are you? I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Uh, I have been I've been doing as much research about this case as I can, right? Because in the beginning, I was totally on board with the whole decoy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like one person did the act, one person rode the bike. You know what I mean? I was with you on that.
Yeah.
And the more I've researched, like the subway guy, you know how they said someone was coming up from the subway?
Yeah.
That's a woman. Like that's not even like that person has gloves on, the legs are thinner, the backpack's completely different. I've been going through everything with the one thing they can't explain is the timeline.
Yeah.
Now I live here. I live here. I live uptown. Like that I'm on 84. Well, sorry, come to my house. I'm way up. I'm uptown.
Yeah.
And like I have a sense of the traffic and all that. 6 minutes to get from 103rd to 54th, and that's not even 6 minutes because they said he left the hostel at 5:34. That doesn't even include when he got on the bike,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's the one thing that I'm having trouble with. Like when Bragg gave the press conference, he had a time of 5:52. But even that's a little ambitious, but much more doable.
Yeah.
Um, there's obvious inconsistencies with the evidence, right?
Right.
Like Tish is saying there's fingerprints on the bottle and the protein bar wrapper, but Kenny, the head of detectives, is quoted as saying they have one fingerprint from the phone.
And it's a smudge, right? It's not even a full fingerprint. It's a smudge.
Yeah, he didn't really expand on that, but uh, there's so much inconsistency about the evidence, right?
Yeah.
That I have to say, I suspect they don't have a ton of evidence.
Yeah. I mean,
That's my
so
feeling.
what's interesting is one of the things you started with, Kristen, was I used to think it was going to be a decoy or an accomplice, but the timeline
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. So you're kind of in between, right? You're like, okay, I'm leaning more towards thinking Luigi acted alone, but there's problems with the timeline, right?
yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
It's the going off the grid, right? Like for him just disappearing for a few months and just reneging on commitments he made to a very good friend to be in their wedding.
Right.
Like everything we know about this guy was what a good friend he was. Like
Right.
how social and affable and kind and thoughtful he was. So for him to suddenly go from that to just, I'm going off the grid and I'm gonna like potentially screw over a really good friend of mine, that to me, that's concerning, right? Like
Yeah.
that kind of 180 degree
Well, and
change.
this is what the TMZ special tried to lay out the grounds for, is that he was having a mental crisis, that ever since his back injury in Hawaii, where he re-injured his back, he was on the downward spiral, going into depression, distancing himself from friends and family, and had gone into a dark place. So that's what the
Right.
TMZ's special was about, right?
Yes. But it's very possible that what they attributed to the back injury was the onset of some kind of psychosis.
The problem,
right? Because
the problem I have with it is they have not once in all the specials. There's been 3 specials now that I've seen. At least 2 of them have continually made the phrase, "We're not sure what he's diagnosed with, but it's obvious he has some kind of mental condition." Nothing I have seen to date has said that he was seeing a psychiatrist. Nothing to date has said he was on any kind of psychiatric meds of any kind whatsoever. So that for them to continue to draw this narrative that obviously he has a mental condition, because no sane person would think that this was a rational thing to do, therefore he must be mentally disturbed. Now we have to find, where did he start going off the rails? And they start pointing to, well, maybe the back injury, maybe it led him into depression, because it's just a narrative they're starting to build with, as far as I understand, no evidence whatsoever.
Agreed, but it's very possible that he didn't realize, like, it's very possible that it just went untreated.
Sure.
And don't forget the microdosing. He was microdosing.
On what?
And that he was microdosing on shrooms.
And where is what is the source on that one?
That's on his Twitter bio.
His Twitter bio, okay.
Yeah, like the big mushroom, and then if you go to his Reddit comment history.
I want to just address that real quick. So first of all, thank you for telling me. I didn't know that. And I got to be careful because obviously TikTok doesn't want me to talk about that. I know a lot about shrooms. I have experience. Meditative sloth. I'm experienced, right? So that would do nothing to someone's mental condition. If anything, it actually helps people's brains heal. But that's a side tangent. What I'm saying is we demonize certain things in this country as the explanation. And I don't think especially not microdosing. And personally, and again, not to take anything away, I don't think that would have had anything to do with the psychosis at all.
Microdosing absolutely can contribute to psychosis. It can, if they're overdosing. Right? Like if they're using it, it alters your brain chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't want to disrespect you, Kristen. So I don't want to argue about whether or not it's a dangerous thing or not. But I like I said, I get what you're saying. So I apologize for taking that time. Just that I'm well studied on psilocybin and the effects of psilocybin in medical research. So I don't believe that is. Personally, I don't believe that's anything about his slide into a psychosis. But
I respect that. My background is trauma recovery. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm certified in, and that's where I'm getting my information. So I respect what you're saying.
Sure. Yeah.
I just feel that this sudden change, because I just want to stick to what do we know? Right. What is indisputable? What's indisputable is he went off the grid for 3 months, and he used fake IDs. He brought cash. This is a guy who did not want to be found. Right? Like, why?
Right.
That's what I want to know. Why did he do it?
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, I just got restricted. I told you I can't talk about psychedelics or I would get busted. So I've been busted. That sucks. I got 2 restrictions. Holy crap, they tagged me twice. All right, well, the good news is 36 people are in here, and I don't think you're going to get kicked out. We just won't get advertised to more people. My mistake. I knew when I started down that path, I was like, I'm going to get hammered for this, and there I did. Somebody may have reported me. I don't know. It is what it is.
Let's see. Hold on. I'm sending it to as many people.
Restart the live so you don't get banned. I don't know. Does that work? I didn't know that was a thing. So far I've been restricted a few times. By the way, I'm sorry that this has derailed us a little bit, but I've been restricted a few times, and it doesn't seem to do anything because they don't even give me a warning or whatever. It's just, and in fact they could be just restricting it to 18 and older, right? They could be like, children shouldn't be hearing this, so we're just going to put a restriction on it, make sure it doesn't get served up to kids, So
yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's my fault too. I'm the one that actually went on the tirade about it, so it's my bad. I take responsibility for that. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, I mean that's the good question. I mean, to play devil's advocate, the name of my channel, right? To play devil's advocate, if he had made a decision at some point that he was going to do this, It wouldn't surprise me that he went off the grid. He's got a lot on his mind. He's got a lot of things to work through, work up the nerve to do it, make the planning, all of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he was doing, that he would go off the grid while he mentally prepares himself for something that of this monumental,
Yeah.
thing. So I
Yeah.
don't find that
Do you
necessarily inconsistent.
do you think he's involved?
Luigi? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's involved. I think he's involved for two reasons, and I said it before earlier, but I don't know if you were here when I said it. One, his statement as they were pushing him into the police station, where he was yelling about how they're out of touch with the America's lived experience, and it's an insult to the American intelligence, indicates to me the kind of thing somebody who would say that's involved in this situation. Like he's making a statement about how they, whoever they are out of touch, right? So that was a damning kind of statement. Also, in the courtroom, when the federal government was outlining what they had on him at the time of his arrest, and they listed things like having the weapon, the silencer, even a letter to the feds that addressed them, and then they mentioned the money. The only thing that happened is Luigi leaned forward, "Hey, I want to say something about the money. The money was planted. That wasn't mine." And I'm like, all the shit you could have denied, and all you did was deny the money part, like that stunned me, and it stunned me that Karen allowed him to even say that. But maybe it just happened, and she.
Well,
didn't
he
want to
wasn't she wasn't on board yet.
Yeah.
She wasn't on board yet. Yeah. He looked very out of it, right? Like he just looked very I don't know. Listen, I so badly, so badly want him to get off, right? Like I just do. I want this to start a conversation,
Well,
right?
so
Like
yeah. So here's the thing, Kristen. I mean, the conversation has been started, right? Regardless of what happens, the conversation's been started, and people are awake to the whole conversation that we knew was going on. Like everybody knew there was a problem with the healthcare system, right? But now Luigi's actions, if allegedly he did it, has awakened that whole conversation. And I agree with you. American sympathy is towards, even if he did it, we want him to walk as a statement, right? To be like, in fact, my friend's position is, I want him to have done it, and I want him to walk. I want a jury to say, yeah, you know what? He's guilty, and we don't give a shit. Not convicting, period. There's your statement.
Right.
We're not putting up with this shit anymore. We don't consider that unjustified, And so that's a sentiment a lot of people have, and rightly so, I feel. Now, the danger again, watch me get a third restriction, is it sounds like you're glorifying violence, right? It sounds like you're promoting that kind of thing, and we can't do that. TikTok is not going to let people glorify violence or celebrate violence or anything like that. But you have to understand that the American people see it this way. They don't care if he's guilty or not. They want to see the guy walk.
yes, I agree. And I'd like to think that they, that he walks. I really, really do. But I think his best chance right now is if she pleads insanity, depending on what evidence they have.
Right. I at the moment, personally, I don't see how she could plead insanity for him. It has too much planning, too much forethought, took months to do all the casing, and as they said in the TMZ special, even if they tried to claim insanity, the fact that he tried to go on the run and hide himself, you can't do the whole, hey, Luigi doesn't know the difference between right and wrong, if he took steps to disguise what he was doing and try to get away. So that would be their counter to that, is that he clearly knows it was a wrong thing, or he wouldn't be trying to get away with it. So
Well, it's funny. I'm writing an article about this, and I went over the letter that he allegedly wrote with a psychiatrist. And she said that he's showing signs of a break from reality, of grandiosity, and not knowing right from wrong. So it's interesting that you said that. Like I think they might be able to argue it. Might, right? Like if you have the letter, the some of the stakes that there are no gloves. I can't. I cannot. I don't get it. Why no gloves?
Well, I can theorize about that in a moment, but one thing I will say is I kind of personally hope that it's not an insanity offense because, again, the narrative I feel like the media and stuff, are trying to spin is no rational person would have done something like this. You have to be crazy to have done this in the first place. Something's wrong with your head to have done this in the first place. That's the narrative they're trying to paint, as if to say that Americans aren't fed up with this bullshit. Right. And so they're like, well, you just have to be nuts if that's what you think is going to help solve things. And they're like, maybe people are just fed up with the bullshit. So I don't know that I want him to get an insanity defense, even if he was, because it would be saying that, oh, well, something was just wrong in his head, because no rational person would have done something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're right. So we don't we don't want that argument.
Because I just don't want it to diminish that you have to be a crazy person to be pissed off at the system. You know?
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm just. Yeah.
Well, Nico was mentioning James Holmes. By the way, I won't completely side tangent this, but I studied the James Holmes thing and blogged about it for a considerable part of my life. My life got crazy with the James Holmes story. So I am intimately, really intimately wrapped into the James Holmes story, but we won't divulge or whatever, diverge from the current topic to cover James Holmes, which is now over a decade old. But
yeah, like I said, there's something up with the evidence. Like, I would not be surprised if they have manufactured some evidence.
Well, let's talk about the gloves for a minute, because I mean, and I know this sounds, on the surface, I know this sounds crazy, right? People will be like, you've had an excuse for everything. Veneers over fingertips have been around for decades. It is not hard science. It is easy to put a veneer over your fingertips that leaves no fingerprints. So if you've got a gun and you know that you want to plant evidence and you want somebody else to be fingered for it, you get their fingerprints on that gun ahead of time. You wear veneers. You get caught on camera holding it barehanded, and everybody goes, well, the fingerprints has to be theirs. I saw their hands on it. It is easy. It's like, again, that technology has been around for forever. That is, and people think, well, that's crazy. Is it crazy when we're talking about billions of dollars that the insurance industry has? Anybody who's going to put a hit out, if it was a hit, on an insurance industry that makes billions and lost 800 and something million dollars in the cyber attack earlier that year, they have the kind of money to hire a professional hitman who can plant evidence and make it look on all camera like, hey, I'm going to set down this water bottle on top of a bag of trash. I'm going to drop my phone right where the law enforcement can find it. I'm going to have a video of me holding it barehanded with somebody else's fingerprints on it, and I'm going to leave it behind. And then I'm going to slip away, and you're all going to finger the wrong guy.
Yeah, I don't understand. See, what gets me is all of the evidence that they say they have is all stuff we've seen. Right. Like the protein bar wrapper, the water bottle. Like, if you look at what the phone, there are pictures, there's video of him holding these things. So it's easier to push this narrative of, oh, we found fingerprints on a water bottle. Where was this bottle? Because when he's walking towards the hotel while he's on the phone, there's no bottle in his hand.
And keep in mind, they have repeatedly said they found fingerprint evidence near the crime scene, not at the crime scene, near the crime scene. How near? Now the question has to ask, how near? Also, you have to definitively prove it was Luigi behind the mask who held that item when you have it on camera, because that still has to be established. Was it actually Luigi holding that weapon? Again, is there a possibility the person who does the pew pew is a different person than who changed places in Central Park if there was a conspirator? If so, you have to be able to, which person was holding the piece of evidence at what point? You know?
Did you hear, I don't know if you watched the New York Post quote unquote documentary that they produced. Did you hear that they were pursuing a completely different suspect for the first 3 days?
Yeah, they referred to him as a dead ringer for the shooter. And then when they traced it down, they found out that he had an airtight alibi for not being in New York at the time, and they had to let him go. Yeah,
and the only way they could have come to start looking at this guy is through facial recognition.
Yeah,
so that's all they would have had, and the facial recognition was wrong.
Right. And I believe it was the TMZ special that had that stunning kind of comment of Luigi's own mother supposedly couldn't say definitively that it was Luigi in the cab photo. That most of us think that was Luigi. I mean, most of us look at that and go, that's probably Luigi. But his own mother supposedly said, I can't say for sure that's my son. How does his own mother not identify him if the rest of America
Well,
thinks they know
hon,
it's him?
well, listen, I'm Sicilian, he's Sicilian. No Sicilian mother's turning in her son. It's not
Right.
happening.
Well, there's
It's
that.
not happening.
That's fair.
You
Nor
know,
would I
like,
expect
so of
it.
course. And I don't like that they say, well, the mother is quoted saying that she thinks that's something he would do. What
That
is something he could do? Stay at a
that was a
hostel?
disgusting statement to me. I can't
Yep.
believe that it. As you said, what mother would say that? I don't. I suspect his mother didn't say that, but I don't
I
know.
I think it was taken out of context. Like, is he someone who would just like go off the grid and not talk to anybody? Yeah, that's something he would do.
Right, and then they spin it to
Right?
say that she meant he could do the killing.
Right. Exactly.
Right,
And I
right.
don't. No
And they
mother.
did the same thing. I mean, I don't know if you heard me say this before. They did the same thing to James Holmes' mother. I'll be brief because I want to. Those who haven't heard it need to hear this. When I was covering the James Holmes story, they called James Holmes' mother at 3 in the morning. She was on the West Coast, and it happened in Colorado. They called her at 3 in the morning and said, "Are you so and so?" I forget her name now, which is weird because I investigated it for so long. Are you Irene or whatever, so and so, mother of James Egan Holmes? And she said, "You've got the right person." Headlines the next morning is his own mother said they got the right person. And she was fuming mad and went on TV with her lawyer and said, "I never said my son was the shooter. They asked me if I was his mother, and I said, 'You've got the right person,' when they called me at 3 in the morning and woke me out of bed." But they spun that as even his own mother said they got the right person.
You know, now that I'm thinking of that, you know the video of him, he's riding the bike past, or somebody is riding the bike past the garbage truck.
Yeah.
For some reason, and I could be totally wrong here, for some reason, is the jacket that he's wearing looks like the jacket that was worn when the act happened, when the act was done, and not the blue puffer jacket that he was
Yeah.
wearing when he got into the cab. I'm going to have to go back and look at that
Yeah.
because now that
Which
I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute.
which again makes you wonder if there's accomplices. Did a group of people get together wearing similar enough clothing that they knew that it would be red herrings and throw off law enforcement and chase them down different trails? And maybe all of them hoped to get away with it, but maybe one of them got caught, kind of thing. But it indicates to me the possibility that it's not one guy who just mysteriously does quicko changeo into similar clothes, but slightly different. And maybe it was actually people that were dressed similarly to throw off law enforcement and send them in different directions.
Yeah, and I also someone said that person had a baseball cap. That meaning
Right.
the person riding the bike. He's not wearing a cap. I froze the video, zoomed in. That light part that looks like the brim of a cap is actually like his eyes, and you can see the eyebrows, right? Like you can see the eyebrows, and you can see what looks like a surgical mask peeking up
Yeah.
above from the whatever the thing he had across his mouth. So that's like if that's just the white part, the lighter part, that's his face, his
Yeah,
eyes.
and that's the difficulty with all of this is that a lot of us are using internet sleuth detect things with grainy images that are really tiny and then trying to blow it up really huge and say, see here, this, that, and things really get distorted. It's easy to see something that you want to see. It's very difficult with all that stuff. So, and it's going to be the same kind of problem that the jury is going to have to face too. Is can they definitively say that these images that are taken from a long ways away or odd angles and odd lighting is the same person or somebody who just kind of appears that way under the lighting circumstances or so on?
Yeah, yeah, I do think the issue of identification could be very tricky for the prosecution. Very tricky.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
indeed. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a crazy story, and I personally think that it's going to have a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be times, again, in a typical case, right? The prosecution goes first, and it's going to take a long time, and all we're going to hear is prosecution, prosecution, prosecution. And we're like, oh, he's done, he's cooked. And this will be before Karen even gets a chance to do a rebuttal, right? So everybody's going to be like, yeah, he's done. We just heard what they have against him. He's toast. And then when Karen comes out and she does her laying the defense, we're going to wait a minute. And all of a sudden people are going to have hope again. And it's going to be back and forth, towing the emotions of the American public as they're trying to
yeah.
figure out what they really have and what they don't have. you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a great lawyer, thank God.
Yeah.
I think she's, you know, she laid some good groundwork, I think,
Yeah.
the other day with, he's not going to get a fair trial. Look what the mayor of this city did. There was no alleged, like I said, I live here. I live 2 blocks from the mayor's mansion. Like he's a POS. Like no one likes him. Nobody
Right.
trusts him. That was optics for him, and I'm glad it backfired.
Right.
Um, yeah, so that's we've got, there are things like again optics, like things I can see her painting a picture of. This is somebody who he wanted a distraction, and she said it. Maybe he did this as a distraction from his own his own issues, his
Yeah.
own legal issues. You know,
Right. Right.
I just want to see him get off. Like
Yeah.
I can think, and I think people don't understand this. I can think he's involved, but also think, um, but also want him to get off, which I do. Like
Right.
I do. But I also think I just think this is somebody who experienced a break from reality, was experiencing some kind of psychosis, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because this just doesn't sound like him, right? Like I don't think you could ever find somebody. Nobody in his past has a negative thing to say about him.
Yeah.
Like the real people, the people, his true friends. So like, it just doesn't. Something happened. Something happened, I think.
Yeah. Well, again, yeah, I mean, I personally don't think he has a psychosis, but I think it's something we have to keep an eye on. And you may be right. Like I said, for me personally, I hope he doesn't, because I don't want the narrative to be that you have to be crazy to have considered what he considered,
Mm-hmm.
if allegedly he considered it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's just me. But like, I don't think, I personally don't think he has a psychosis. I think they're trying to do an assassination, a character assassination, by spinning this narrative that he's got mental issues, that he's got grandiose narcissism because he had the audacity to tell an author how he could maybe improve his book. And that means he's so arrogant that, what kind of guy is this? And he shows no emotions because he told his girlfriend he doesn't really care whether he hurt her feelings. So therefore he's an emotionalist, sociopath. Like they're just literally taking the smallest things and then spinning it into this narrative. He's a sociopath who had narcissistic tendencies and had a psychosis break from a back surgery or back injury. And I'm not buying it. I think that sounds too convenient.
Mm. Yeah, I can see that. I just, whatever it is, I feel bad for the kid. I just do. And I don't
Yeah,
know what that says about me, but
right.
I just do. Right?
It's
Like
difficult.
it
It's
is there's a moral dilemma here.
yeah,
I mean, and for many of us, it's not a dilemma. Like F United Healthcare and I'm sorry, F Brian Thompson. Like,
yeah,
how long did they think we were going to take this
right,
before
right.
something like this happened?
Right. And what everybody's afraid of, and this is why it's hard, because I feel as citizens that we have the right to have these to express our feelings. Just like you say, you should have the right to say, even if he did it, I hope he walks. I really do.
Yeah.
And you should not be afraid to say that. But then what they want to do
Mm-hmm.
is they want to shame everybody and say that that's inciting violence, that you're condoning this, and therefore by saying those things, you might convince somebody else that, hey, maybe this is the right thing to do. That I'm not the only person who feels this is the right thing to do, and so they'll use that as to say you're inciting violence. You're encouraging people to do the same thing.
I've had a number of videos taken down for VE.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by VE?
No.
Schmiolent,
Oh,
schmiolent,
yeah,
schmextremism.
yeah,
Okay? Now that is not an option on the drop-down menu when you go to report a video. It's not under any one of those options. It's
yeah,
not there. You have to write it in.
yeah. Somebody probably reported you, right? Or they did it. Their algorithm, their bots.
I absolutely believe they are reporting video. I absolutely believe they are watching social media and reporting posts. And it was the post about the timeline where I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Right, I got in trouble for my timeline as well. And in fact, they flagged my timeline in another video, which I actually agree with them on. They flagged two of my videos in the same day, for inciting violence. I appealed them both and said, this is ridiculous. I'm not inciting violence at all. They changed the wording on one of them from inciting violence to personal identifiable information, that I gave up somebody's personally identifiable information. And then they won't let me talk about the T word, my outline. They won't let me talk about it. If I talk about that, I get restrictions. If I mention that to somebody in private message that they can go see it off of TikTok, they flag it and ask if they want to report me for talking about it. They just simply won't let me talk about my outline because they flagged that word. And if I say that word, then they immediately start banning me.
They don't want the information out there.
Right.
They don't. I absolutely believe law enforcement has somebody covering social media and reporting and getting everything. I absolutely believe it.
Which is funny because, on a side tangent, and I know everybody hates Meta and Mark Zuckerberg, but Mark Zuckerberg's big announcement about how he's apologizing for censorship and they're going to stop censoring and flagging stuff and using all of these tools that they use to auto flag people and let people talk freely is an interesting time for him to come out with that announcement, meaning that TikTok is heavy on the hand now, restricting everybody's free speech and telling them what they can and can't say, facing a possible ban in the U.S. And then here comes Zuckerberg with the whole, hey, we're going to stop restricting your free speech. We're going to let you say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, right. So he's just thinking about himself.
Right.
He's also thinking about the potential ban.
Right. And taking over if TikTok gets shut down, because everybody wants to be the next TikTok, right? So if TikTok gets shut down, hey, come to Facebook Reels, hey, come to whatever, because everybody wants to be this is where you go for free speech if TikTok gets shut down.
I believe, isn't someone in the talks to buy it? Isn't Kevin O'Leary in talks to buy it?
Yes. I have a really bad taste about all that, but yes. Yeah, he's publicly stated that he's ready to buy it and he would be happy to buy it.
Oh, yeah, I hope he does.
My problem
Go ahead.
My problem is, and I'll try to be brief, and I don't want to be political, but the United States government gives zero shit about your privacy. This is not about keeping China from getting your information like they're telling you. That's a lie. It's about protecting American business. TikTok is eating fucking Americans' lunch in this space in social media, and they're getting tired of it. So they want to force China to give up the hold and let an American make the kind of money that China is making. It is not about privacy. They will be using that tool to spy on Americans left and right. That's my side rant, my political thing. But all the narrative that they're protecting your privacy is crap. It's not about that. They want an American company to buy it so that America can make money off of it, not China.
Agreed. I can see that 100%.
Which is why I have a hard time with the whole, Kevin O'Leary coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to save everybody and buy this. Like, of course you will, because it's going to make you fat money. It's not about privacy. You just want fat money.
Right. Yeah. I just don't want it to go away.
Agreed. And I don't think it will. Honestly, I believe TikTok's going to win their free speech appeal. Personally, I think it's going to be upheld, or they're going to uphold it as a matter of free speech infringement to shut it down. But if they do shut it down, there'll be a million people that are going to take over the space. It may get sold to an American company at that point. There's a million things that could happen. It probably isn't going anywhere, but it might change hands. And from our perspective, maybe it doesn't matter. It just changes who's spying on you.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it really does. People, yeah. They just know exactly what we're doing, and I think they're watching us very closely for a lot of reasons, but especially with this case. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
This could get very, very ugly for them. Yeah. They do not want this to go to trial. They don't.
Well, yeah, and I think the number one thing that everybody in the top is fearful of is that we're on the verge of a revolution. That this is the equivalent of Marie Antoinette's, let them eat cake thing, and people are going to be like, fuck these people, we're taking over, right? They want to make sure that Luigi does not become a martyr, and that everybody sees this as they're going to kill Luigi no matter what, and we're not going to let it happen. We're going to storm the prison, we're going to free him, they don't want a revolution in the country because this guy has galvanized public opinion to it's us against you guys.
Yes, but I think that a lot of stuff could come out. That they do not want coming out about the healthcare industry. And yeah, they just don't. They're going to do whatever they can to get him to plead. And I don't think he's going to plead. I really don't.
Yeah, unfortunately, as I said, unfortunately, what I think they want to do, what I would think Luigi would want if he's at all involved in this for real, which I probably think he is, that he would want this trial to become putting the healthcare system on trial. But no
Yes,
judge.
that's what I think he wanted. That's what I
Right,
think he
but
wanted.
no judge is going to allow the healthcare system to be put on trial. This is going to be a trial about a murder and a guy killing another guy, and they will repeatedly say this court is not going to put the healthcare system on trial. They're not the ones on trial. They're not the one that committed the crime. It's this kid that committed the crime, and they're not going to let it happen. So, as much as I think all of us want to see the American healthcare system put on the spotlight in this trial, I don't think any judge is going to allow it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I hope that the American health system does get put on trial, but I don't think it will be allowed.
Well, I'm going to eat my dinner. Thank you so much for having me up, but I'm going to be in the comments and I'm going to be listening. But thank you so much for having me up, and I just followed, and
thank you.
Forward to more discussion.
So much, and thank you for not taking it too personally when we disagreed about some things. I really appreciated the conversation.
That's discourse is. This is how we learn, man. This
right.
is This is how we learn. So thank you so much, and I'm going to be in the comments. Oh no, I have a question for character. Yes, what's the question, lady? Capulet. She typing it?
I think so, yeah.
Jeez. Long-winded, but I'll try. Should she just come up in the box and ask?
I don't think she has the ability. I don't see an option to invite. So.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh wait, yes, she does.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, hey. Thank you for letting me up. I'm not a creator on here. I just kind of got on this app just to stock this case. I'm a 32-year-old architect. I live in Seattle. I have a question for both of you, about the missing persons report for San Francisco, for Luigi by Mommy Dearest. How in the world did a police officer recognize Luigi in San Francisco based on the terrible footage that we all saw in the beginning days of the case? Because apparently he did, and contacted law enforcement in New York. So I looked up the stats, and 17, something like...
Oh no, live pause.
There you go.
So nearly 1,800 adults go missing in San Francisco per year. 1,800 reports of missing people. That's nearly 5 a day. And you mean to tell me some random cop recognized one of 1,800 based on the eyebrows and the footage that we saw, and called law enforcement and said, hey, I've got this Italian valedictorian that was reported missing, who doesn't fit the profile of an assassin, but I think it's him.
Well, we don't know what the police have, right? Like, we don't know everything that they have. So that's the first thing. Would
San Fran have been privy to that? Would San Fran Missing Persons Department be privy to what law enforcement and the feds in New York had?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I'm taking your point exactly. I think that's highly suspicious. I agree, lady. That's highly crazy. Makes you wonder what the hell's going on there. But that's me. I'm with you on that logic, that they're very suspicious about that.
Could somebody in San Francisco have tipped them off? Because he stayed in a hostel in San Francisco.
Sure. I mean, right. So supposedly, according to TMZ, he had been staying at a hostel in San Francisco under the fake ID of Mark Rosario. So I don't know the timeline about when this officer came forward, but it was revealed that he was using a fake ID of Mark Rosario, sorry, at the hostel in New York and apparently in San Francisco as well.
Correct, but listen, here's the problem with that. At what point could that tip have come in? Because
Right,
one of the first photos we got was the adorable one at the hostel check-in desk. So if you are flirting with this gorgeous man, you're remembering him. He stayed for 10 days. You can also check your files for the exact moment he checked in, and the name Mark Rosario would have pulled up. So
right.
at the moment we were given that beautiful smiling footage, they had the name Mark Rosario already. So why not put that out there? That's what I don't get. Why were we not given that? Even if they ran it through databases and they knew it was fake, it doesn't matter. The name should have been put out there. And it
Well,
wasn't.
remember, they misidentified. They whatever information they got at the hostel sent them down the wrong path.
You think the wrong name for Cutie Patootie could have been given?
Well, I think that all they got was the CCTV footage, and they ran it through facial recognition and started tracking the wrong person. I
Right,
don't
but that
even
doesn't
know.
make sense because he wasn't there buying a product and then walking out the door. He's checking in for a 10-day stay. So they would have
Right?
had to have done an exchange with him that is on record, time stamped and on record is the name Mac Rosario along with the photo ID. That's what I don't understand.
There's
Like
a
they had
lot of
to have,
there's a lot of
is
things
that
I don't
not weird?
understand. Sorry, I don't mean to step on you.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of things I don't understand. Like, for example, the two individuals who are rooming with Mark Rosario slash suspect, who said
Correct.
that the entire time that he was there, he didn't even eat meals and withdraw his mask. He kept his mask on the whole time. But he's going to pull his mask down in front of a camera to flirt with the female? That doesn't make
Yeah,
any sense to me whatsoever. So he's going to hide
right.
his mask when he's outside of TV range and not even show his roommates his face, but he's going to reveal his face on camera. I don't.
Hmm.
Something
I,
smells
I,
fishy.
I don't buy that. And also, in the aftermath of COVID, we are none of us really are noticing or care about that behavior. Pre-COVID, that would have been something we all would have thought was weird. But we're
Right.
so desensitized to masks at this point. You're in
Right.
New York City in a crowded hostel, and that's what you notice about him.
Right.
You're not noticing the fact that baby boy was attached to his backpack the entire time because there's no way with roommates he's leaving a backpack with all of the accoutrements to pull this off on his bed or under the bed to go to the public bathroom to shower, which is going to be way down the hall. He had to have been glued to that thing. And that would have been odd behavior. That behavior should have stuck out to them to be like, yeah, the guy was like obsessed with the backpack. That's why we
Or he just
recognized him.
or he just left it there while
And
he
just
went to
took
the
a
shower and
chance,
whatnot.
you think?
Yeah. Look, but
Oh my
remember,
God.
I am of the impression that he had a break from reality. I am
I
of the
know.
impression he
I
wasn't
know.
mentally sound.
I know. And I'm starting to creep there. I'm starting to
Right.
creep there. Part of my creeping has to do with the quote unquote manifesto because it's not eloquent enough. It is not a type A engineer brain who wrote that. It might appear it's well written to like based on comparatively to how people write nowadays, but
Yeah.
it's not scholarly. He has
No.
Reddit posts that were more detailed and eloquent and thought out and specific. That was sort of thrown together.
Yeah.
And I think it was you last night in another live when you said that. I started thinking about that. Perhaps that manifesto was written after, and because of his state of mind, it didn't sound as he should have sounded.
Yeah, I compared it to the Goodreads review, and the,
Yeah.
he there's something very similar that he does in both, which is
Mm-hmm.
he overuses adverbs and qualifiers. So
Mm-hmm.
he'll say, apparently, additionally, he, I don't even know how to say this. Like when they said, why did
he's
you,
bullet pointing to make sure every detail about everything comes in.
yeah, I don't, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but what I'm trying to say is like he uses the same adverbs, like basically, plainly, additionally,
Oh,
apparently.
yes. Yeah.
He starts a lot of his sentences with those words. This was like, what did he say? This was
Check.
very, very basic, like elementary this, basic that, simple this.
Mm-hmm.
The way he's talking, there's a when he says, don't bother checking my tech because I work in engineering and it's pretty locked down. Bro,
Yeah.
it's the FBI. Trust me, he thinks he's smarter than the FBI. That's what I mean by the grandiosity. The end when he says, apparently I'm the only one who's addressed this so brutally, or I've
Mm-hmm.
whatever, confronted this so brutally.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean by the grandiosity. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
he says, I'm sorry, this had to be done. Like, that's what I
Correct. Which
mean. There's no sense of right and wrong there.
I'm less worried about right and wrong because of what he did. So he was less worried about right and wrong in the moment. What
Mm-hmm.
I found fascinating was the point where you're doing this unbelievable, impactful thing, allegedly, and you are so eloquent, articulate, scholarly, detailed in your Reddit posts when you're reviewing a damn backpack and like a travel mug. He wrote
Mm-hmm.
more. He was more
Yeah.
detailed. And here, you're throwing this moment together. This was a
Right.
moment for you that was going to impact society. You did it to
Right.
impact society. And all of the
Yeah.
valedictorian is sucked out of your body all of a sudden, and you sound like a 5-year old. And he flippantly says, it checked all the boxes. He wrote that about some travel gear object on a Reddit post, this, object that didn't even matter. He writes, it checks all the boxes, and then bullet makes bullet points of what boxes he's talking about. Yet in the manifesto, this big moment, what are the boxes? Give us the information. What do you mean checks all the boxes?
Well, he
Greed.
might
Like, you know what
have.
I
He
mean?
might
Like,
have. Yeah.
but we
I
didn't
didn't
see, where
realize that.
was
That's a
it?
great catch. That is such a great catch between the Reddit post and the letter. It
Yes,
checks
it,
all
it
the
was the
boxes.
exact, that was
Yeah.
one of the first things I saw weeks ago. And what
Yeah.
you're saying, that same language, that also could have been manufactured using chat, you know, it could have
I
been
don't
just
think he was
manufactured
using
AI.
chat. I don't think this is my personal opinion. Like you kind of hit it. You hit on it where you said like this sounds like a 5-year-old. Yeah, disorganized thinking.
Correct.
If
Yeah.
his thinking is disorganized, his writing's going to be disorganized.
Correct, which is now why I'm sort of going after you had said that, because I've been following you for like a week and a half. I like through myself. You were one of the first ones I started following on here. And then when you turned, I started thinking, okay, so then that would make me feel better about how that writing was. And it would give credence to the fact that the valedictorian and Ivy League was apparently gone. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
they could
Yeah.
use that as evidence as for state of mind in the
Right.
moment. That
Right.
can be evidence to say, look at this human being who has
Mm-hmm.
made lists, he has analyzed, he's been philosophical, he has been detailed, and we have evidence we can show you since the age of 7. This guy
Yeah.
has been overwriting. He's got journals, he's been doing it forever. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, look at this state of mind in this big moment that he knew was going to be read. He wrote it
Mm-hmm.
for our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
This should have been a speech that would have made Martin Luther King jealous, but it wasn't.
Right.
It
But
was
also
like it was bad.
remember too, it's he's handwriting it. So that is going to be a little different. I know when I handwrite, I mean,
But he was a
we're just not used
handwriter.
to it.
He
we're
likes
just
it.
not used to it anymore. He's very analog. That's what Body Movin' said, and I agree with it. He's also said, he doesn't like Kindles. He likes the feel of a book.
Correct.
He's
Yes.
very analog.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And
So,
also, if he's in a state of mania,
yes.
the holding of the pen and the paper is going to be more personal. He's unable to detach himself from what he's trying to get out as he could, and as we all can do when we're in front of these inhumane screens and keyboards that feel like they're not a part of us.
Right.
I think it can be used as evidence if he does plead insanity, because yes,
I do too.
that is right there, because obviously be a huge credit claiming they've gotten letters back from him. I'm so upset about it. I don't think he's writing to anybody. Handwriting experts are going to be a huge portion of this case. And if you get a letter, keep your mouth shut. This has been less than a month, and people are just losing their minds. And Karen would probably be like, "Don't you dare! I don't care." Month, and people are just losing their minds. And Karen would probably be like, "Don't you dare! I don't care if the Pope writes to you. You are not speaking. You're not writing. You're not putting. Don't."
People aren't paying attention to, when she responds, and whoever responded for her said, "Yes, he is receiving mail." Make note of that. She's not saying he's reading it. She's saying he's receiving it. And that's the difference. He's not writing anybody. He's in solitary.
And we know he's receiving mail. It would be against his rights. He has to receive mail. They have to actually give it to him. So that, I also think those emails were faked by her, but whatever. But that's, that's his right as a prisoner. They have to give him these pieces of mail. And of course they're being filtered through, and, he's getting a certain amount per day, whatever. But there's no way in hell Karen's going to let him just start talking to randos. Be like, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. What's up with you?"
Especially if there's a reason why she said, before she was even his lawyer, the best, they're probably going to go for an insanity plea. There's a reason she said that.
Correct.
And if she suspects, right, or if that is what the argument she's going to use, she's not letting him respond. No, listen, bro, if he's had that break, he's not going to know, he's going to say too much.
Correct. And also, listen, we are watching him still in the state of mania if this break has happened, which is why we are looking at his insane, almost royal presence that he's carrying himself with.
Yes.
As though he's just walking with his head up, and it's this sense of royalty. And it's majestic, and it's hot as hell, and everyone's making edits, and we're laughing about it. But it might be mania.
Smash every day. Smash every day. He's hot.
My friends, God. Yeah.
My friends got me a blanket with his face on it for my 100%. Birthday a few days ago.
But listen, this state of mania is still intact right now. And if I was Karen, just starting to get to know him, I need to do a couple things. I need to preserve and watch this mania, either remain or have him come out. And what I would also attempt to do if I was Karen was control the letters, everybody, the phone calls, everybody who's reaching out, because I cannot fill his unbelievably fragile mind right now with anything except for what comes out of my mouth.
That's why the family isn't there.
Possibly because we know the family unit is not in a good shape right now, from what we can tell. Mom and Dad appear to have a divorce. Luigi had not been around them since Christmas of 2023. And so I need to preserve his mind. I need to watch his mind crawl out of it. I can't have letters coming in with, these people are going to be sending him conspiracy stuff. They're going to be telling him, "It didn't look like you on this street." People are doing love letters. I don't want him to get those things.
Yeah, neither do I.
It's going to feed into the insanity.
It's going to reinforce, Correct. It's going to reinforce the grandiosity. It's going to reinforce the psychosis.
No, and I need him to come out of it to
Yep.
prepare for this trial
Yep.
because he is
He needs
dark
to
right
show
now.
remorse. He
He
needs to
needs to
show
show
remorse.
remorse. He needs to show shock. He needs to crawl out of it and explain what happened. I met this one guy in India. We talked about this, whatever sent him there. And I would just be like, literally 2 letters a day. And they can only have these topics in them.
Yep.
Like that's it. If anything, what do I need to slip you guys? Some extra money? Here's $5,000, slip like whatever you have to do in the prison system to like get
Yeah.
this kid's not going to be sent books. People were sending him all this all this shit. I'd be like,
Oh God. Yeah.
absolutely
No.
not. He can read
Yeah.
bridges over Madison County and that's it. Like I'm
Right.
done.
Right. Like this is what I'm saying, and like it took me a while because when this first happened, I remember saying to Body, I really hope mental illness isn't at play here because it, like you said, Lee,
Maureen,
is that your first?
Maureen.
Maureen, and you're Lee. That's gonna affect the argument. It's gonna dilute the conversation. But
Right.
as time has gone by, like some of these choices that he's made, the no gloves, if there was no gloves, the looking at the camera in the cab, the taking his mask down,
Yes.
like
Yep.
these really like out of whack choices that shows disorganized thinking, right?
Yes.
He's not
Yeah.
thinking clearly.
Or
Well-
incredibly organized, but also mania. There is mania there. It is organized.
Yeah, I think
to pull
so.
this off was pretty remarkable. I mean, let's be real. He only had to do a couple small moves and he would be gone.
Yeah.
If he shaved those eyebrows, if he threw the gun in Central Park sewer system,
Yeah.
if he didn't
Yep.
pull the mask down, although I believe he pulled it down because it had to match the Mark Rosario ID he was checking in with. That's why I think it happened.
Lee, hold on 1 second. Lee,
Sorry.
what were you going to say?
Well,
Sorry, Lee. I'm
No,
taking
that's-
over
that's
your
okay. I mean-
screaming.
no. First of all, I want to say that I wanted to be quiet and hold space for you guys to express this opinion. I do want to say for the record, it makes me uncomfortable. I do not buy that he's having a psychotic break, even despite all the great arguments you guys have made. And I do appreciate you guys doing that. I think the listeners, the viewers on this have really appreciated the banter. So it's been hard for me to hold my tongue, be like, I really don't believe in
But you
him
did,
having
and
a
I
psychotic
appreciate
break.
that.
I
That's not
appreciate
easy.
that too. Sorry about that.
No worries. No. I just want to make sure that you guys had plenty of time to express that to end as well. But I just wanted to state for the record that I think there's something else going on myself. But your guys' analysis, the breakdown, and the reasons what you're saying are excellent. I just think that there's another explanation other than he's lost his mind and he's having a break and all those things. And that's it. I just want to be brief because again, I wanted you guys to have the space to discuss that. But I just want to go for the record to say that I don't think it's a psychotic break myself. But
Okay. That's fair.
But
That's
but
fair.
like I said, I love that you guys shared that on the live. I think it enriched the conversation for everyone, so I appreciate it.
Totally fair, but here's my thing also. If there's not player 2 that we keep counting on, because trust me, I'm also still there. I'm trapped between both. If player 2 does not materialize in some way through a video that's about to be presented, and again, that's why the manifesto is so confusing because it sucked. It's so anticlimactic. So are we about to get did he hack into something and is about to come out with some insane video that's going to get him out of this? Like, you know what I mean? Was this all planned?
Well,
that some sort of evidence is going to appear from the heavens above?
Right. I think that's two things that I'll try to be brief again because I don't want to. So I'll try to be brief. The same things that you guys are saying, all these things that he's doing don't make sense. It must be a mental break. Also leads to, it doesn't sound like it's him. Like this is planted evidence. This is stuff that's not, because you're saying the same thing. We're just coming to different conclusions. Something's wrong. Right?
Correct.
It doesn't
Yes.
seem to match his character. So either he's having a mental break, which I tend not to think, or that stuff wasn't written by him and there's another thing going on. I think that leads to my reason about the cat that ate the canary looking at the smile and cocky swagger because he knows something we don't know. I would imagine,
Correct.
just making this up, that when Karen took the case, he probably told her some piece of information. She's like, oh my God, if you can prove that, we're going to win this thing. And took that case because she knows something. They both know something we don't know yet. and when it comes out, it's going to
Well,
shock
hold
everyone.
on.
Now, that's a theory. That's just a
I'm
theory.
hoping.
If there's exculpatory evidence, it has to be presented immediately. Like
It
she
has to
can't
be
sit on
presented
that.
during the discovery phase. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she can't sit on that.
Right. But there's also things that are protected under client privilege, right? So the attorney-client privilege. So they can have conversations, and he could say to her flat out, "I did it." She's not going to have to reveal that. But if he says, "Here's a piece of evidence," yeah, she has to reveal that piece of evidence. She can't hide that piece of evidence from the prosecution. They have to have it. So there's a little gray area about what he could have told her. But that's, again, I don't know that's the case. My theory isn't any better than your theory. I'm just saying that my personal thing is, I think there's something else going on. I think I agree with you guys that it doesn't make sense with his character, but I don't think it's because he's having a mental break. I think there's something else going on.
And if I could just say one more thing, then I'll get off and stop hogging. I'm caught between both, and then I'm also considering both of them combined. He had a mental break, which made him, what's the word I'm looking for? I just, sorry, my dog just, um, which opened him up to be convinced to
Yes.
do this with someone, to
Yes,
take the fall,
it
perhaps.
made him impressionable.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the word.
and this,
Thank you. Yes, vulnerable to this,
yeah,
to another
yeah,
entity, whoever it is, some
100%.
giant
I
entity.
could be open to that too. Yeah,
Yeah, a
definitely.
giant entity with deep, deep pockets and a lot of connections that are going to go, holy shit, we've got a
Well,
genius here
and
that
again,
looks like that, who comes from deep pockets. We can do this. Luigi, help us do this, and you're going to get off. You're going to get
right.
off because you got money and looks, and we're going to plant a couple jurors for you. You will walk, but let's do this. And you are going to walk out of there a hero.
Along that lines, let's not forget, Brian Thompson and Andrew Whitty were both subpoenaed. They're going to testify before the Department of Justice on antitrust violations and short selling stock, which they got sued for by a firefighter's pension plan in Hollywood. That was all under investigation. Now Brian Thompson doesn't get to testify before the Department of Justice. Who wanted him to shut his mouth? There is indications that this is a hired hit, and this entire thing, and like you said, if that's a hired hit, these people have the kind of money to do whatever the hell they want. Plant evidence,
whatever,
buy off judges, get a conviction,
correct,
put people on the jury. All that stuff's plausible when you're talking about billions of dollars.
Correct. Yeah. And also you're talking about not just within United, but within the government. They have now tried to stop two purchases of United. The first one being Change Health in 2020, January 6th of 2020. United announced they were going to purchase Change, the data software that everybody runs their health insurance through. And the US government attempted to stop it. Yep. Due to monopoly laws. It was literally all over it.
Right.
And they didn't. The sale went through. And guess what happened right after? A giant data leak that cost right now it's at 2.3. They think it's going to hit $2.7 between the US government and United. Because remember, United is who Obamacare people are getting their insurance through. So this is going to cost the government money as well, not just United. And right now it's at 2.3 loss. They say it's going to hit about 2.7 to fix what happened. The government doesn't care when we're getting screwed by insurance, but they sure care when they're getting screwed by insurance.
The thing that terrifies me the most about the idea that somebody in the insurance industry whacked Brian Thompson to keep him from testifying because of something he was going to say. The thing that terrifies me the most is how will that affect people's sympathy for Luigi if it's a hired assassin to protect wealthy insurance industry against even more exposure of their corrupt practices. In other words, it flips the script. Luigi's not for the people now, liberating us all from a corrupt system, but rather was paid by the corrupt system to somehow take the fall, or whatever the case may be, so that they can shut up and hamper an investigation by the Department of Justice. It would completely screw with everyone's heads.
Yeah.
Right? But that's what propaganda does. It screws and keeps people in a state of confusion and a state of hold. I mean,
I also have to apologize. I tend to shout when I get all excited. So
Oh, so do I.
That's
You're
okay.
And
That's
this is
okay.
only my second live ever in my life. I don't make any content. My page is empty, so I feel like I'm also yelling. I'm also from the East Coast, so I'm a screamer.
When I put
I'm
passion
from Boston
in my
originally.
voice goes up and all.
Wait a minute, what part of Boston are you from? What part of Boston?
I grew up in Cambridge.
Oh, beautiful. I'm from Woburn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. When did you move
Cambridge
to New York?
Back in 92, I think. 92,
Okay.
93. Cambridge is gorgeous. Gorgeous. I loved Cambridge.
I miss the East Coast. I miss all of
Yeah,
all of it.
I went to school in Boston as well. So yeah,
By the
I was
way,
right by MIT.
An individual in the
Okay.
chat had asked a question about somebody, and I saw it, Lori, and there's two different Loris. There's a Lori with a Y and a Lori with an I. I can't talk about that. That is the one and only time I've gotten a strike. Well, I didn't get a strike. I got my first warning and told if I did it again, I'd get a strike, and it was because of that person's name specifically. So be careful about putting that name anywhere. The family's on a rampage. If you mention that person's name, you can get your whole
As
account.
they should be, though.
Yeah,
they should be on a rampage. Let's not throw real people's names out there.
So let me clarify that real quick. Let me clarify that real quick.
Yeah.
The one video I made, there was one video I made about that individual that I even felt bad for. I was like, that probably shouldn't have been made.
The mother's really upset about it.
Like the mentioning the similarities in that thing, I stand by. There's nothing wrong with that. He's a public figure. He's had a freaking Paramount show made about him. He's a public figure. Mentioning the name is not a problem. I did not call him the shooter. Never did I call him the shooter. In fact, when other people said, your theory that he's the shooter, and I repeatedly said, I never said he was the shooter. I said he bears similarities, and he's a public figure. So again, I do feel bad for the one video I made because it too much made it look like I was calling him the shooter. I did not intend to do that. I was simply trying to show reasonable doubt. There are other people who look a lot like him that are missing. That's all it was about. But it got taken the wrong way. I feel bad. I totally agree with TikTok banning that video. I don't agree with the other one where I just mentioned his name because he's a public figure.
Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry, I'm going off here. Someone just said, does my theory believe that it ties back to NPC? Doesn't that mean a non-participating character? I believe
Non-player character.
Not non-player character. See, that's my mind changing it to something that makes sense to me. Participating, really, right? Because in the months before he dropped off, Lulu was obsessed with agency and people making their own choices, people being participators in life and around them, and putting the screens down and not being fed what we're supposed to believe, and losing our time on social media. He got in touch with two authors, that journalist that he got in touch with, and sent the guy, he spent $400, Luigi, of his own money on his own birthday in May, Luigi's birthday. He's gifting this stranger $400 to help the stranger get this app and this subscription app to formulate his thoughts better. He reached out to that author. It's just so fascinating that he's trying to talk to these intellects and these people about these concepts of how I can feel alive. And he's very close to almost using that verbiage in that email to that guy where he says everybody in Japan is really passive. They just, and he talked about that annoying situation where the police were even waiting at a red light because they didn't want to break the law. Instead of making the decision to break the law, cross the street, jaywalk, there's an emergency. Like, how passive are you? And it just, again, it speaks to vulnerability, a state of mind where someone could have come in and been like, you want to really participate in something? You want to feel alive? You want to make a choice? You want to go against what people are telling you to do and how you should act? I've got something for you. Are you interested?
Yeah.
And he's traveling around and opening these conversations with complete strangers. So it would have been very easy for someone to present this to him.
Right. This is the same logic, by the way, that James Holmes I told you about. Was investigating. It's the same logic, which is that the idea that most of us go through life not really making a difference in the world at all. No one's going to remember who we are. Nobody gives a shit. We just play by the rules and we do everything that we're told. And very few people are actually doing something with their life and their time on Earth. And so he supposedly expressed to Bogle that he didn't want to just be a non-player character, that he wanted to make a difference. And so rather than just floating through life and taking it what they tell you, he wanted to make a change. That's the argument, right? So he did this because he was tired of just being a floater through life. He was like, I'm going to do something. I'm not going to be the guy who just sits there and says, somebody should do something. Maybe he decided, I'm going to stop being an NPC and I'm going to do something. I'm going to play the game.
Yeah. I'm going to play the game on the biggest stage. And I mean, why did you have to play the game that way? Mental break, somebody inserting into his life. And but yes, I mean, that confidence is either because he's working with someone that's going to pop out of nowhere magically and get this off, he's holding on to something, or he's still in his mania and understanding what he did. And also, but that speaks to the fact that he could very well get off. That's exactly what will get him off, is that he truly believed what he did was correct.
Yes.
He was righteous in doing that. And that is why he's walking like royalty right now with his head up, because I did it. I did what no one else dared to do. And I was correct. I made the right choice. I helped everybody.
Right.
You know,
that was one of the early videos I posted was, is it possible his shit-eating grin, as I called it in the courtroom, was he's a man at peace with what he's done. He made a decision, he made a difference, and he's at peace with that decision, and he's willing to take the consequences for it.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Right. Possibly. I'm just saying, that was a question that I posited, you know, is his smile and confidence in the fact that he and his head held high is because he doesn't have shame for what he'd done. He stands by what he did and he made his statement. If that's the case, it's just these are questions that I have, and as I trace the story, I start to ask: does the facts support the hypothesis? Is it that he's an egotist? Is it that he standing up for the American people and being our champion? Is he a paid assassin by the health insurance industry to shut up Brian Thompson? What is all the theories, and then what does the facts show us out of all those theories that's likely to be the case? And nobody knows yet.
Read what Lori says.
Which Lori?
I'm gonna my chicken and broccoli is cold. I'm gonna go heat it up.
Oh, sorry. Thanks for staying on so I could throw those.
Yeah, ladies, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this live as well. I want to thank you both for being my guests tonight on the show. I'm sorry I got slow at inviting you to the thing, and I appreciate.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you both.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys very much. It was great conversation, and I'm going to follow you both, and I hope we can continue.
I never post, so you don't have to follow. There'll literally be nothing on there.
That's okay.
If I have questions not answered tonight, I apologize. Thank you, everyone, for signing in, and I think we'll wrap it up here tonight. Thank you so much. And again, I'll have it on YouTube as well. So on our website, devilsadvocate.info, and also links to the YouTube video when I upload this live.
Oh, great. I'll follow you on YouTube there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.